Hey, it's Cody, and thanks for listening to the Mama's Den. Now, y'all know Black is beautiful, Black is love. It can be seen 365 days a year, 24/7, and mamas know Target is here for all of it. Black Beyond Measure is Target's year-round campaign that celebrates and elevates the spectrum of Black love and success. From the multitude of commitments and investments in the Black community to supporting HBCU students and uplifting Black entrepreneurs. Shop Black-owned or founded brands at Target, from home decor and candles to beauty, wellness products, and so much more. Surround yourself in joy and amplify your Black love with the help of the Black-owned and founded brands at Target every day. Visit target.com/blackbeyondmeasure to learn more.
Good morning, everyone. It's the Mama's Den. This is your girl, Ashley, she who talks a lot. I'm here with my other girl.
What's up, you guys? It's Felicia.
Oh my God, the amount that you go is so funny.
It just comes out naturally.
I love Who else is here today?
Hi, I'm Cody.
And
nice to see you.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
No, it's
See, I
fine.
talk a
It's
lot.
With
It's
us
fine.
in spirit.
Melanie's always with us in spirit.
Yeah.
But she's out here being a rock star.
Yeah, she is.
Literally.
Yes. So I want to talk about Cody's show, Black Love. The episode I watched, it was amazing. It made me cry. It's just, there's so many layers to it. Did you see it, Fee?
Yeah, I loved it.
Really?
Yeah, it's really good. There's each story I can relate on like so many levels. I think the thing that I couldn't wait to talk to you guys about was like when Lamaya is talking to Eric, and first of all, I love them in general.
Yeah, they're so cute.
Yeah, they're
and
amazing.
like when they first got together, I was like, you guys are just adorable. But when she said the women in her family were basically the men.
Yes, girl.
And she was saying how when she met Eric, like all of a sudden she's like, I don't know where I fit. I don't really know what to do. And I feel like in my own life, now that I'm more open to this idea of like dating men like just on a different level that are very like doers, you know, and I don't have to step so much into my masculinity. I found myself being like, what do I do? This is really uncomfortable. But the more and more that I have that safe space to be able to be a woman, it's like a game changer.
Yeah.
I'm like, why was I operating
love
any other
them.
way than this? It was, I'm like, but it was so, the whole thing was so good.
Yeah.
The whole thing was so good.
So background, I guess, well, first off, I love words of affirmation. I appreciate you guys for telling me that you watched and for enjoying.
I was crying. I was
Me too.
upset about some things.
Me too.
I was informed.
Me too.
The episode was called Healed People Heal People, which the title is a whole nother conversation because I went back and forth a lot. But it was about parenting. It was about parenting. I like the name too, but I wasn't sure if it was clear. And like, anyway, so it was a whole thing. I had to like talk myself into it and out of it and then be like, we just gonna do it.
Yes, always go with your instincts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Trust
yeah, it was about different parenting stories and how it essentially how it stretched and grew each couple.
Yeah.
But it was all love. Like there was
It's
no
beautiful.
really big conflict as much as like wow experiences.
Yeah.
Except for
Yeah.
maybe mine was conflict.
Yeah.
Yeah, just yours, Cody.
Tommy and I were in the episode.
But no, I felt it was interesting too on your guys's. It was like I was listening. You guys started talking more, and then it started to. Then you guys like cracked open more.
Yeah.
You know, when it was like, well, I wanted this name because of my dad, and I started crying. I was like, okay, you know what?
Yeah, that made me
It was
cry.
great, yeah.
So
when you start
our
talking about your dad.
storyline was
It's beautiful.
discussing our son's name. Basically, we actually opened the episode with Tommy saying like the first year of our marriage was terrible, and I was like, dang, for real?
I know.
I was wrong. I said, Tommy.
No,
Right.
he's-
I said, excuse me. She said,
special.
well, tell me more.
Right. I was like,
And then he was
"Dang,
like, when you were pregnant, I was like, oh, that was year 2. And it was terrible.
Yeah.
It was, we argued the whole year.
Do you know I remember that?
Yeah,
I
sure.
remember.
Wait, while you were pregnant?
I remember
Yeah.
talking to her about
was a lot.
having a conversation with you about the name and you being like, I'm just going to give in. Like when you said that, I was like, I remember when she said that. And I remember me being like, no,
Right.
don't do that. And I remember her just being like, no, it's just going to be, gives me peace. When he explained why he gave in, that made me cry because
Girl.
I was like, the sweet side of Tommy, that sweet spot
He
boy
is, yes.
is beautiful. And I was
It
like, that
is.
was really sweet. But I also realized something about Tommy when I was watching it. Like, I feel like he avoids things that make him emotional. I think his safe space is like baseline. Like, I'm just very factual, da-da-da-da-da. So even when
That's that Virgo boy.
Yes,
That's
when
that
he
Virgo.
wasn't explaining why he wanted it to
Did
be
y'all,
his
Lord,
name.
and I had to keep that because
I know.
people love to say that I talk over him, but I know him and he will tell me a million times, no, you, it's okay. You say it.
Yeah.
You say it. You talk. And I'm like, nope. So I had to include that because I'm like not about to tell your story for you.
Yeah.
I feel like it's half and half of him not wanting to go there and also him actually like appreciating the way you tell stories. Do you know, like sometimes people know what their strong suit is, and I don't feel like he feels like he needs to do that, which is also admirable. Like, you know what I mean? Like people sometimes know, like, play their role. Like that's her thing. Like she explains things really well, and he knows. Yeah, I think he recognizes that about himself too, and he's like smart, a businessman. Like we're doing an interview. Like I'm gonna let the person who's a little more animated, and I do feel like Tommy's like super smart like that. Like he's just, you know, thoughtful.
Very
but
analytical.
it could come off like cold, but
Yeah.
yeah.
that
But
Virgo.
we know
That's how Virgos
him.
are.
Yeah.
Virgo
We
men
want
are-
y'all to
men
know
are just
he's
like-
nice.
We love Tommy.
We love Tommy. We love Tommy. But I was like, no, if he don't stop. But
Yeah.
how do you
It was quite a
feel looking
time.
back at it? Like when you guys were talking about that, well, this is like about the show and not, but as a person who's a part of the show,
Yeah.
do you feel like it's healthy to relive those moments or?
Overall, I do.
Okay.
Right? Like based on my experiences talking to so many people and the things that they have shared with me,
Yeah.
overall, I do. It's a double-edged sword, right? It depends on how much you talked about it before that day, right? You could find yourself in a situation where I ask a question and you're just like, well, we've never talked about it. And then
Right.
you learn that you're just on opposite sides. For me, in that scenario, we have been over it a million times. Like it's what hurt me, and I'll be honest, because this happened in the interview. He's aware. Like what I found shocking, I don't even know if I put it in the show, was when he was like, I don't think it warranted.
Oh, it was in there.
Okay. He was like, I don't think it warranted the crying. So
That's
this is
the part
before
that
we told the
triggered me.
why, right? And he's like, man, it was just so strange to me that there was all of this crying and emotion over this name. And I don't think it warranted all of that. And I said, like, that is shocking. Because it wasn't as though at the time I didn't articulate exactly what the issues were.
Right.
And maybe to his point is like, he wouldn't have cried over it. So me crying over it is weird. But for me, I'm like, bro, we were arguing over our son's name. Tommy did not have his father in his life. And it was very important to him at a certain point to name his son Junior. And I understood what that meant. And for me, my father had passed away. I had no way to include him in my future, legacy, life, whatever. If I couldn't name my child Brooks or Jackson, because that was the other name I wanted, which is my dad's middle name. And so it was like, well, what we gonna do?
Yeah.
And we just gonna fight about this or
that's hard.
discuss and debate unhealthily for 9 months. And that's what we did.
You said you were triggered.
Yeah, when he said that, that's when I text the group chat. I text the group chat and I'm like,
Was it signed?
go to your husband, girl. Because
Yeah.
it was just, like you said, it's
I
like
couldn't believe it.
that emotional. And then I was even more triggered when you finally you started to explain why you were emotional.
Seemed
and I'm
obvious.
like, Tommy, what you mean?
Her dad died. Like, what are you talking about?
I'm like, I don't. That's why I was like, okay, we got to talk to Cody about this in person. But that's why I'm
they're
like, what's his sign again?
They're both heavy. They're both
Yeah.
like,
Yes.
there's no right or wrong in my opinion.
No, I agree. You know what it made me think about, and I know this is going to sound it's not anti-female. I think it is, but it's just a reality. And I think about when me and Chia were deciding to keep Amira, right? And we have a lot of power as women, though. And I don't think that sometimes when you were explaining it, even though I was annoyed with Tommy, like, now come on now, her dad died. Like, it's very obvious. But equally, you said you are two individual people. So his feelings are equally valid and his experience in life is equally valid. And so how do you even decide who, at the end of the day, whose feelings matter more?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Which
Like,
one's more
that's
important?
really who's
Yeah.
more important. And someone's still losing. You know what I mean?
The
Like,
minute they said it's a boy, I was like, oh God.
yeah, you already knew what you were in for. But that just shows you in life too, like in relationships, like compromise or whatever you want to call it. Like he still lost a little bit. And he'll never be able. One of you was never
Sure.
going to be able to get
And
what
I
they
knew
wanted.
that. No,
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like, he knew that. He ain't stupid. But like for me, that the way we experience that is different. I cry. When
Yeah.
I'm frustrated, I cry. When I don't
Absolutely.
have the answers, when I'm
too.
sad. And it was all of that. For me, it was like,
I'm a crier too, though, y'all.
forever
Now.
somebody's going to lose here.
Yeah.
And feel it. Someone's going to feel it for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know the answer, sir. So
Yeah.
and so we would debate and cry, and each of us would come home and be like, okay, fine, you got it. But it sucked.
Yeah, but then you won.
Okay. For those that haven't seen, because if you're gonna put it like that, yes, I did. Praise the Lord.
That pivot when you're telling the story and how it goes from when Tommy was telling his part of the story and how it went into the delivery, everything, and I'm like listening, I'm like, oh, this is the best story ever.
I know,
was like,
right?
this is great. It's had a great ending.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
That was beautiful when he said
My
that.
ears were open.
I was like, oh my God. Now that shit really made me cry when he was like, she didn't get an audience. I was like, Tommy, that's the Pisces in you.
It was perfect.
There it
It was
is.
perfect.
Coming
I didn't
out.
get the birth experience that I wanted. So he literally, like, after the C-section. No, he said he realized it during when they asked, like, what's his name, and either Tommy or I answered, but he saw like my face. I don't know. I was anesthesia, but so after birth, we're in the whatever you call the waiting room. What do you call that room? Recovery room.
Mhm.
And he goes, we can name him Brooks. That's when he said it. It was after everything.
That's crazy.
And also the thing about Tommy is he's very like, if we're arguing or debating anything at all, and he says yes, and I'll be like, really? He'll be like, just take the yes. Don't say really. Didn't I say it's okay? Don't say really.
I'm
So
like that too,
was
though.
the one time I didn't say really. I didn't say, are you sure? I said, okay.
He's such.
Let me go ahead and grab this.
He's
The end.
such a factual person. I see it myself so much in him, though. Sometimes, like the way he processes things, like it's just like,
Yeah, me too.
why are we still talking about this? Yes, no. Like, let's move on.
Yep.
The
Don't,
end.
yeah, don't. And but Scorpio, I mean, we're not like that. We're very
No.
like, oh, yeah. Like,
Yeah.
it's always more. Wait, okay, so the other part of the episode, what was the
So many
couple
things.
with the
Allie and Dawn? Allie, me? Yeah.
that was very, very deep. That was good.
was.
The way that, first of all, the way that they pay attention to their child, you know, from just even being like, oh, you know,
Yeah.
wait. So
So they had a
was a daughter.
and a son, and their daughter is the oldest. And early on, Allie was like, my child. Now he would word it that way, but their daughter was going to birthday parties, whatever. Like he was like
Ninja Turtle
He was
or
like, my
something?
child went to a ninja party. No, a princess party
and a ninja
as a
party.
ninja.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's that rebel spirit that I love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was explaining that at a certain point, he was like, okay, he says my child. So I'm trying to like make it clear for listeners.
before
like,
she transitioned.
before she transitioned, but he's like, okay, she's probably gay, right? Like, I'm
Yeah.
cool. I'm ready for that.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it when we talk about it.
Right.
So their child, who at that time presented as a girl,
Right.
right,
Yeah. Okay, there we
was
go.
going to was presenting with boy things, with the things that people traditionally think of as boy things,
Like
right?
interests, yeah.
Yes, interest. For instance, he mentioned that their child wasn't really talking about dating boys,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So things like that. So Allie is preparing himself for, that's the dad, is preparing himself for like, okay, at some point, you
Yeah.
know, my child's going to say I'm gay. Cool, we're ready. And he's from Brooklyn. He's very like, you know,
Yeah.
it's a matter of fact. That's what he said. I'm from Brooklyn. You know, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
Is it safe or is it not? Gay, straight, cool.
Right.
And so at 13, 14 was when both their children actually sat them down, and the oldest said, I'm trans. And Allie and Dawn were like, huh? What? I was not
Yeah.
prepared for this.
Yeah.
But I just, so in their response to it all, it was like, okay, so we have to figure out what that means
Yeah.
and just love and support you.
I just
even though I'm
loved,
confused.
I loved, like, I think it's so important for kids to have a safe space at home.
Yes.
You know, because the mom, she
Dawn,
said,
yeah.
when she when their child went to school, it was like the first 3 months was showing up as a girl.
I think what she was saying was at the end of the school year to the next school year. So the 3 months was summer. She was like,
Literally transitioned
Yeah.
into now
Yeah.
a boy.
Yeah.
And I was like, but that self-acceptance, I'm
Yeah.
like, but it starts at home
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
the mom and the dad, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, it was just so beautiful to me, and how it was like, all right, this what we doing, this where we rolling.
Yeah.
How do we educate ourselves? I'm
Yeah.
like, that's what the fuck I'm talking about.
Yep.
I cried.
Yep.
I was like, that story is amazing to
It
me.
is. It made me think too, like when she was, I think she said it, Dawn, she was like, you say you're open, you say you're accepting,
You say you're
until
about
something happens,
unconditional
and that's
love.
when you really have to determine like
Yep.
who you really are as a parent. And it's funny because it made me think about overall parenting with Chia, because the world is just changing so much. I have 4 daughters. I know they're not all going to express themselves the same way. And I was like, Chia, the odds are that one of them might end up being a lesbian. Like, what are we, you know what I mean? Like, that's just a reality.
Yeah.
And my brother's gay. And like, so for me, it's just a part of my family. You know what I mean? Like, we don't even care. When my brother came out to me, I was like, but do you have a job? I don't care who you're sleeping with. Get a job.
No, right? I'm like, I really don't care who you're sleeping with.
I would
I'm
just stop
like,
asking me for money.
even if it was like same sex, not same sex, I think that's always my thing. Is
Yeah.
like, same sex or not, like I was never gonna be in your business regardless of who
Right.
you humping. Like,
But there is a reality of we have, like you were talking about, you getting excited or you have a son and you think of their name. There is a reality where you have a baby and like he said, this is our European westernized conditioning where like I have a little girl. It would be really hard for me. That's just
Right.
honestly, if one of my daughters then but I'm so attached to them being women and this feminine
Yeah.
energy and it being so strong in our house and me really celebrating us all being women. So I could imagine like it would be really hard for me to swallow that if one of them was like, now I want to be a boy,
Yeah,
or not
for
want to
sure.
be, but I am a boy. I'm sorry. And there would you having to accept that because you do have to mourn who they were.
absolutely.
And I think that there's I'm glad that you had them on there because the way they explained it was very respectful and honest.
Yeah.
But it
I
also
feel so
allows
lucky.
people
They're
to
amazing.
Yeah. But there's not a space for that. I think we try to make people feel bad about not accepting something right away or not understanding it right away. And then we label them as that's not true. Like people need to process things.
And I need to research
Yeah.
on like what does this actually mean?
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and it's your child that came out of you and you've experienced them this one way your whole life, and now they're saying like I'm a completely different being.
Well, maybe not even that, right?
Yeah.
Like not a completely different being. To their point,
Yes.
it was like, Lord, and we repeated it so many times, but like we are a soul.
Yeah.
And we
I love
have
that.
a body.
Yes.
And like
your
when you
soul
think
is-
about
is
that,
it,
your
yeah.
soul is your soul.
Yeah.
Your body look all kind of ways.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
grandma used to say that too. It's like an old Christian-y saying. I don't know.
Is it a Christian saying?
I feel like it. Well, my grandmother. I just said that because she's Christian.
Yeah,
she
yeah.
said it, so I don't know.
it's like-
a
but-
Christian thing?
I don't know.
think at the
I've heard
end of the
people,
day-
older people say that all the time.
Yeah, I think that statement to me was so powerful because it comes in so
very
many
powerful.
forms.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
and the reality, it's actually funny, coincidentally, I was talking to the kids today. Do not ask me how. We were talking about, well, because they'll sometimes be like, can you have one eye?
Oh Lord.
Right? And I'm like, well, yeah. Like some people have one eye,
Yeah,
you know?
true.
Like, can you have one arm? Like, so we
Yeah, they're really into
and
that.
so we were talking about that, and we started talking about prosthetics. I was like, how did we get here? I don't know. But because I definitely want them, I try my best, and sometimes Tommy says I'm over top, to just give them the understanding that like people come in all different like
Yeah,
shapes, sizes,
absolutely.
colors, forms, etc. And so this is to me an example of that, right? We are, at the end of the day, our soul is our soul.
Yeah.
And our body might have one eye. You know what I mean?
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Or
I have a question. This is actually a really good question.
I'm glad that you
If you
think
do
that.
say
My
so
question,
yourself.
my question is a good question. Well,
It's
okay.
actually a really good question.
This is a good. Sorry, what I'm trying to say
No,
is.
girl, live in your truth. It's a good question. Ask
No,
it.
this is a good question to bring to the Mama's
Okay.
Den, is what I was trying to say. So I have a homegirl,
Mm-hmm.
and anytime we're at like, and she is a mom, she has 2 kids, and anytime we're at like, say like a mama's like barbecue party, whatever, I notice she keeps bringing up this topic of schools teaching children about like, being trans or being gay or, whatever it is. And she has a very strong opinion. That's not a positive opinion. And we'll go around asking all the moms, like, what do you think about
Every
this?
time she goes out, that's what she does.
It's been like 3 times. And
Okay.
I'm always seeing her. And then we have some therapist friends, and, they'll express like, kind of very similar how to we are, is like, if this is what you want to do, let's research it. Let's walk one another through it. So are you guys against, like, let's say the kids are going to school and they're teaching them about, being trans or anything. Are you guys open to an outside source of yourself educating your children on this? Or do you feel like that is your own individual thing? So the other part too is one of her biggest concerns is that the kids are being exposed to the information too early. Like we're bringing it to their awareness too early.
I'm gonna speak to all of that.
Yeah. So all of that.
I'm gonna try anyway. So it's kind of like sex to me, right?
Yeah.
The short answer is like, I'm not opposed. That's the short answer. But of course, there are schools or teachers or ways of educating children that may be too much too soon.
Yeah.
Right. It's or worded incorrectly or approached, so I am not opposed at all. I am the kind of parent though that wants to understand, how are y'all talking about that?
Yeah,
the same
absolutely.
way I'm like, how y'all talking about Black History Month?
Right.
Is it year round? You know what I mean? Like, and so all of that is the same to me from the standpoint of, like I said, I want my children to understand that everybody's not going to look like them, be like them, seem like them, whatever. And I don't want my kids to be bullies. I don't want my kids to be pointing at people and calling them weird or different, or and it could happen still, but I want my kids to just know that we come in all different shapes, sizes, forms, etc. And I say that to say that I introduce them to the book about bodies. There's multiple, but like the bodies book, and the What Makes a Baby book, and books that have female leads or queer leads, or all the things that I can introduce them to that allow them to see people other than themselves as the center of stories, and also allows us to have more conversations because, now they've seen something and they can ask me a question, or I can say like Auntie such and such or whatever. So my answer is, I'm not opposed, but I do understand that there's nuances to it, and every school and every teacher ain't getting it right.
Ashley?
I would agree with Cody. It's more about how it's being taught. For me, I don't want to say I'm anti teaching things in a way that makes them seem like it's like different, but I don't like that. I don't want a teacher sitting down like, we're gonna talk about gay people today.
No,
let's talk about people being transgender. Like, that's fucking weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Like, I don't like that shit at all. I feel like instead you have children's books in the classroom that have these different types of characters. You teach things when you're doing U.S. history. You talk about different leaders who were queer, and you talk about them in their life. You don't have to be like, this is the queer leader, but like, and her wife. And you say it so casually and normally because it is. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so I feel like that is my only thing, is like, if you're making it a thing and making it weird, then children are always going to look at it as it's other, versus you just talking to them and teaching them about it in a normal way, because it is normal. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's how I'm with my kids. Like, Target has these little that Target brand, I can't remember the name, but whatever, have like a lot of their games. They have a matching game, and there's like a kid with one arm. There's a kid in a wheelchair.
I'm gonna need you to Google this. I want these cards.
I know,
okay,
me
yes.
too.
What do you guys know that brand? It's like blue and red. It's at Target. They have
Are they
like
just like flashcards?
No, they have everything. They have like goldfish and all. It's like a whole brand at Target that, anyways, I'll figure it out and tell you or something. I need to text you.
Okay.
But anyway, they have flashcards that are just like the matching game. They make a lot of games, just kid versions of them. But all the characters are different. There's black ones, like Spanish ones, like glasses. And it's just, we were playing with the kids, and Azar was like, she has one arm. I was like, yeah, find the other one with one arm. Then you have a match. And that was the end of the
Literally
conversation.
casual. Yeah, like
that was
not
it.
putting emphasis.
Yeah. And
yeah,
go ahead.
I feel like I'm the same way. It's like, we're not about to sit down with a bunch of little kids and like, today we're talking about this. I'm like you said,
it makes it weird.
Yeah, and it's but also I'm like, when I think about, sex ed and stuff, I'm like, there's a lot of stuff that we weren't learning at this age. Like, I think Peace can know what's going on. I'm like, but do I really need to talk to my 3-year-old about
no.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, that's not
what?
what this
But
conversation
he doesn't
is
know
about.
because
Wait,
Zen
do you
doesn't.
mean-
He's not
she said
exposed to
sex,
like
so I
sex
was-
or anything.
I
I'm
was
like, he's so
saying-
small.
But
You
the
know?
sex conversation is about body parts.
Yeah.
At his age, it's about, and it can be about much more, but it's about naming things. It's about understanding.
I think she means intercourse.
No, I'm talking. Yeah,
But-
like
but
he knows
talking to
his
your kids
penis
about
and
intercourse?
vagina.
No.
Yeah.
And I said that like that because we're almost there. But
Yeah.
But my point is that sex, like the word sex, or if we're explicitly talking about intercourse, no, I'm not teaching my 3-year-olds about intercourse.
Yeah,
That's what I was talking about.
But
Oh, okay.
but
Yeah.
getting this is sort of a tangent, but not really. So for instance, because I'm actually very, very happy this week in particular, because we've had this book, What Makes a Baby, for like a long time. And Brooks started with it, and the babies now are reading it more, and they ask for it a lot. And what I love about the book is by Corey Silverberg. It's called What Makes a Baby. The book talks about sperm, egg, uterus, and those are probably the only terms. But it talks about you need these things to make a baby. Some bodies have sperm, some bodies don't. Some bodies have eggs, some bodies don't. Like that's how it's explained, especially because they're trying to be inclusive, right? For not just queer, but IVF and surrogacy and all of that stuff, adoption, all of it. You need all of these things to make a baby, and it's more about family than anything else. Yeah. But what it has done is it has opened up the conversation. After reading it 20 times. So not the first day, right? But it's opened up the conversation for Brooks to be like, yeah, sperm's in my belly. And I was like, we've talked about at what age he gets sperm now because the sperm is in the book. We talked about where it actually is because they already knew they had testicles. Yeah. So it was like, it's in your chest. So it has allowed us to have certain conversations that I still think are age appropriate. Yeah, but absolutely. It exposes them to the information. And the other thing is I've been able to ask, like, well, why do you like this book so much? And they're like, well, we like learning about how our body works and what's inside of it. So now I have this other book that's about like lungs and heart, you know?
Yeah. It's like there's levels. That book sounds really good. I literally just added it to my cart as we were talking. I was like, let me literally love that book. Yeah, because that's like, I like that. It's like there's levels to exposing this information to them. You know what I mean?
And the earlier you expose it, the easier it is to have conversations. I've even talked to Brooks, like I've talked to him, we've had this conversation. I've talked to him about periods because he'll see like a box of tampons. He's like, what is that? And I'm like, oh, it's a tampon. Right? I'm still not quite ready.
They are obsessed.
But I'm like, oh, it's a tampon. And he's like, well, what's a tampon? I'm like, well, I don't use and I've explained it. Yes, okay. But the What Makes a Baby books allowed us to talk about the uterus. And then for me to be like, remember when I told you about, menstruation? I don't remember what word I used. Maybe that was it. It's still uncomfortable sometimes, but it's like, remember when I told you that? That's where it happened.
Yeah, I'm definitely like that. Obviously, I'm a woman, so I'm very open with my daughters about their bodies and all their parts. And this is so random. I don't know what talk show it was, but I remember a talk show a long time ago where they were like, the mom was on there because someone brought her on there and said that she was inappropriate because she was like naked around her kids. And I remember I didn't have kids at the time. I always thought about that sounds crazy, right? But I'm like, what? But then I was like, I get dressed in front of my kids. Do you know what I mean? Like they just walk in my bathroom. Like today I was getting dressed and Azara was just standing in the bathroom and I was butt ass naked and she was just talking to me and I was just talking to her, put my lotion on, and I see her like stare at my body and like stare at my parts and she's like processing it. And I just don't say anything. I wait. If she asks, I answer. But I think it's really important too to be free. And also I like wear a lot of bras in the house, right? Crop tops, and Chia never wears a t-shirt. We're just like very like that. And I noticed Amira, she was just like staring at my stretch marks and I was like, are you looking at my stomach? And she was like, yeah. I was like, it's a lot of stretch marks on there. She's like, yeah. And I was like, well, that happens to somebody when they have babies, some people. I was like, you might not get any, but I do. But like, just also, I want her to always remember one day if she does, my mom used to like,
my mom had this.
She was okay with it. She showed them and she was confident. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think all of that's inclusive, but it's funny you say that, Cody. You asked me if you could get Amira a book, remember?
Yes, I did.
And I was like,
I hadn't seen the other parts of the book.
Parts of the book we're talking about like birth control and what to do if you get pregnant.
So wait, back up. Because she loves to have me out in these streets where she gives like a part of the story.
No, it wasn't bad. But I was going to give you credit.
I'm going to get the book though. But
I was going to give you credit and say that now that you just said this about your kids, like maybe it's not the worst thing for her to have it now.
So I have a comp now too. Okay. Because you're right. So, I'm obsessed with Dr. Jennifer Lincoln on Instagram. She's a wonderful doctor. I fell in love with her during the pandemic. She's a white woman who was talking about racism in healthcare. And she exposes the truth. She is a truth teller.
All right, come on.
But now, because she's an OB, she is like super stressed, of course, trying to provide resources after Roe v. Wade was overturned, trying to provide resources to women of all ages, all over the country. And she's doing an amazing job. But she'd written a book, I think last year, called Let's Talk About Down There or something like that. Basically to give young women, maybe adult women, I'll tell y'all what I learned this week, but to give young women a resource to learn about their bodies and talk about vaginas and vulvas and all of that stuff and periods, right? I'm not sure exactly what age is targeted, but I know the intention was teens and up. And so recently she was sharing it and I was like, actually, I want to buy Amira this book. And what I didn't see in it was that she is talking about like how to access birth control, and Amira don't necessarily need that right now. But the reason I say all of that is because Corey Silverberg, the guy who wrote What Makes a Baby, also wrote a book called Sex is a Funny Word. And I didn't want to buy the book until Brooks was ready for it, because he can read. So if the book is in the house, he's going to be like, oh, cool, let's go. But I went ahead and bought it. And I was talking to Erica about it because like it's really thick. I was like, this is very thick. But what it made me realize is that
children's book?
it is written like a children's book,
Okay.
but it's dense.
Oh.
And so what it made me realize is I need to read it first.
Yeah.
Probably the same of Let's Talk About Down There, so that as things come up, I can be like, okay, I know this is in the book,
Yeah,
so we
yeah,
can
yeah.
refer back
Like
here
sectional.
and give them terms and things that they need to understand. And I already know what's there. And so I think now, because you pointed out that was in her book, I think if you have the book and you read it, you know what's in it, it gives you tools and language to talk to her when those times come up. And that's what made me excited. I went ahead and bought the book, turned it around so he can't see the title.
Yeah, I mean, that your episode talking about parenting and stuff, I mean, I think that's like one of the main things that I learned about it is having discussions like with your partner and really understanding like how you're going to parent and how you face those challenges together. You know what I mean? Because it's like you're not always going to come with the same tools or understand parenting the same way, you know?
Those books are for grown-ups too.
That's
Right,
what's
for real.
how do you Ali?
Ali Me.
Ali,
But
okay.
Ali,
He said that about his wife. He was like, she reads everything and
Watch documentaries.
yes, but that's good to have a partner like that, you know, because I feel like that's me and Chia. Like I'm not taking credit, but he'll say it. Like I've helped guide him in that way when it comes to our daughters and just being really open to something new and different, because that's not how he watched his dad parent his sister, you know. But my mom was like that with me for sure. She was very open and just really like I'll never forget. My mom told us, I was 16 years old. And she sat down. She was talking to me and my sister about like sex and all this stuff. And she said, listen to me right now. She's like, if you ever get pregnant, I do not care. You come to me and you tell me. She's like, whether you want to keep it or you don't, we'll discuss it together. Don't ever, ever, ever deal with that on your own. Yeah. She just made it so clear, like, I'm going to be here and support you no matter whatever happens in your life. And I feel like that was so like beautiful, you know what I mean? That's why when they were talking about their child feeling comfortable enough to come out, I felt that way with my mother. She made that environment for me to be able to tell her anything.
It's so important, because then you go through this like traumatic experience, like your mom said, like on your own. It's like,
but a lot of people do.
Yeah,
they don't feel comfortable talking to their parents because people were just like putting all this pressure on their children to be, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I remember I started to talk to Peace very early about like body parts and all that stuff, but like giving them their names.
Yes, the right name.
Because we were, and I think it's important to say it on here, that like, let's say something sexual happened that's inappropriate with your kid, and then they go to court and it's like, well, where did so-and-so touch you?
They talking about
and
their
if you,
cookie or something.
yeah, it's like you use nicknames and then it's like, it's dismissed, but it's like, you have to say vagina and penis. And I was like, oh, okay. So Zen would just be like, he just walks around saying penis all damn day. And I'm like, little boy. But the other day, so I'm the same.
It's a double-edged sword.
I'm very, like I'll walk around my house naked. If they have questions, I answer.
Yeah.
Like I do not have a problem. I don't want them to feel weird about their body.
Right.
And I'm not about to feel weird about my body either. I'm like, you came out of this body. We all have the same thing.
Yeah.
So Peace, same thing. She'll look and be like, oh, like, what's that, mom? And what is that? You know, just very interested. And then one time, this was like recently, I don't know if I told you guys this story already, but Zen was like, mommy, I'm like butt naked, going in the shower. Mommy, what happened to your penis? And I was like, oh, I don't have a penis, baby. Remember? I was like, I have a vagina. And I was like, oh, but he's just like growing up and seeing things from a different angle. But now both of them are very interested. Like we did a commercial recently and it's like one bathroom. And I'm like, Zen, I don't want my kids standing out. But I'm like, I'm on my period. I need to change my tampon. He like, Mom, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm putting a tampon inside of my vagina. And he was like, why are you doing that? That's like weird. So I had to like explain it. But having a book like that, I'm like, okay, I'm telling you the real, but maybe there's like, and it's not an inappropriate or weird thing, but sometimes I do wish I had more words of like, how do I describe
it's
this?
Not just the words, it's like other contexts.
Yeah.
Because it starts to feel weird because it's like, I'm just talking about my vagina in the context of blood and a tampon. instead of, now they know vagina, they know that the babies came out of my vagina and Brooks came out of my belly. The book talks about midwives and doctors and like all the different ways that people can be born. And so we have that language because we have other examples.
Yeah.
I love to have another thing to point to besides the weird thing.
Yeah. No,
Or what
I
feels
like that
like
a lot.
the weird thing.
I like that a
Yeah.
lot. Even Peace too. The other day, she's like doing her hair, and she turned around as I'm changing my tampon. And she's like, "What are you doing?" And if this all happens in the same week, I'm like, "Oh, I'm changing my tampon." And she was like, "Okay, so can I see?" And I was like, "Nah, girl, we
No.
won't get you a book for that." I'm like, "Please get up. Why are you?" But when Zen did it, Zen's like,
Why you
But
on the
how else
floor?
is she gonna learn how to put one in?
"Well, I'm
Sometimes-
going to teach her at some point."
Maybe
Oh.
not at 6.
And right now, you know,
Or
too,
7.
she's about to be 8, but also Peace
See?
right now, she got a big mouth. She started running her mouth. Oh, you know what I saw my mom do? Like,
she put
I'm
a
like,
tampon
nah.
in.
That's the reason why I was like, nah, you can wait a little longer.
No,
you good.
That makes me think about the couple who are talking about the women. And
Mylin and Lindsay.
yes, and she said how her family was judgmental and was telling her that they didn't want the boy, her son around her. She wasn't going to be loved, like, you know, like, and,
Yes.
and I
They
was
didn't
just,
want her son around her if she was going to be with dating a woman.
yes, and it just
and now you're doing it wrong.
right,
Yeah.
But I thought that was so powerful for them, where they were like, we're just gonna keep on going on.
Okay.
But I felt like I related to their relationship because I'm like, I went the same thing, girl, and they don't want you, they don't like you, the in-laws. But it did make me think that is a perfect example of like the book and all these other things, like their ignorance.
More exposure.
Yes, the more you're exposed to things, the less you could traumatize your children and their experiences when they become adults. Like, imagine you have a baby and you're in love, and then you tell your parents, and then they're like, "No, I don't like your relationship because you're with a woman." And then your own family being like not close to you and making you feel bad as a mother. Like, that shit was crazy to me.
I couldn't imagine.
Yes, but I'm like, it's the lack of exposure and people going back to Ali when he was like, our mentalities are
The
so
religion thing?
Yes, it
Yes.
is. But I've always known that. I'm so
Yeah.
glad he said that, child, because I'm like, yes, people don't realize everything that you believe is a part of capitalism and it's
Yes.
a part of being colonized.
Yes.
It does not mean that it's true. It is a long-standing lie. You know what I mean? And so it's kind of like you have to really take the time to rethink why you believe what you believe, the root of it, and why you feel so triggered and such a gut reaction. It's because someone is like challenging your beliefs, but that doesn't mean that it's a negative thing. You know what I mean?
There's a good book on this, and this is something that taught me how to put my religious beliefs and how I was brought up in a Christian household, to put those on the shelf, you know, and just like take a moment. It was a very scary process, but it's called The Fifth Agreement by Don Miguel Ruiz, and it's a
same person
co-book,
as
the Fourth Agreement.
yeah.
But the Fifth Agreement really teaches you like everything that you have been taught, like learn to just really take it and put it on the shelf and start to rebuild what you believe and how you feel. Game changer.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the way that he breaks
Fifth
it down
Agreement.
is so good. It's one of
that in my-
that book really woke me up, like really woke me up on a different level, because it's so different. Like it's very similar to the Fourth Agreement, but it's also very different, you know. But that was the thing where it's like, challenge your beliefs. What does that look like, you know?
Yeah. I think that's the most important thing as a parent. What we can learn overall in that whole episode is just like learning to be open to something different than what you were taught.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As you parent, your kids are experiencing this world completely different from you. And it's important for us to like allow them to do that.
Yeah.
It goes back to the saying, like, your children don't belong to you. You belong to your children. You know what I mean? And I say this all the time. I've been talking to my friends about this a lot. We're all going through the same thing with our kids. Like, they're all just kind of going through this stage that's frustrating and we're overwhelmed. And I'm like, yeah, but like, they didn't ask to be here. Did I say this
Yeah, you
yesterday?
did.
Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't ask to be here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we literally have to do everything we can to just like really be there to support them and love them and allow them to experience life on their own terms.
Absolutely.
Yes, and we must heal
Yes.
so we can heal the
Heal
babies.
people, heal people.
That's right.
That's the bar.
All right. That's the Mama's Den.
Bye. Boop, 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 boop.